When you're using multiple platforms within your business, monitoring or reporting on your performance can be a pretty time-consuming task, especially if you're doing all of that manually. Like if you're copying and pasting numbers into a Google Sheets, or you're jumping between different tools, taking screenshots, and then adding those screenshots to a Google slide. Well, with Databox, you can actually centralize all of your data in one place and then use it to easily build dashboards, set goals, create automated notifications, and just so much more. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use Databox's native integrations to connect to over 100 software tools. To do that, we're just going to navigate to Data Manager on the menu. And then this will redirect us to the Data Source Connections page, which is essentially a list of all the platforms you've already connected to your account. So if you were looking to connect another platform, you can just select New Connections. Okay. To search through our list of native integrations, you can either use our search bar or some of the filters that we have here at the top. But let's assume that you've searched through our native integrations and you couldn't find one of the platforms that you're using in your company. Well, we do offer additional ways to connect your data. So you can sync data to Databox through spreadsheets, SQL databases, third-party integrations, which you'll see here are the options on this sidebar. So if this is relevant to you, do stick around because we will be covering this in another video. But for the purpose of this demo, let's assume I'm looking to track the performance of my website and I'm using a tool like Google Analytics 4. So to connect Google Analytics 4, I'm just going to click on the data source. Okay, from this pop-up, there's two ways that we can connect GA4 to the account. I can either ask a teammate to connect for me, or I can just connect myself. So let's assume my company restricted my access to our GA4 account. In this case, I wouldn't be able to run through the authentication myself, and so I could use the option Ask Teammate to Connect to send an email to my manager or a colleague who did have the right permissions and who could authenticate this data source themselves. So by inputting their email address and including a personalized message, I could actually send them a request directly from Databox. If I did have the right permissions or my company did give me the right access to connect GA4, I can just select Connect Now and run through the authentication myself. For the purpose of this video, I've already connected GA4 to the account, so I won't run through the authentication with you. But if you did have any questions around what permissions you needed or what the authentication would look like, you can just select the Help Article tab, which is a tab available on all data source pop-ups, and just search through the links that we've provided here for you. Okay, so I've connected GA4. So let's go back to the data source connections page and see the options that are available to us now. So here's my connection, and by clicking the drop-down menu, I can see a few additional options. So I can set user permissions to restrict who can access this data source. I can set time zone, purchase historical data, and then I can also see all the metrics that are predefined or out of the box available for this specific data source. So once we've connected a data source to Databox, anyone on the account can actually use metrics to build dashboards, set goals, benchmark performance, forecast. So if we click on See All Metrics, we can actually see the metrics that our team member and colleagues will have access to once they start using Databox as well. Okay, so you've connected some of the platforms your company is using through Databox's native integrations. But what happens if you're storing your data on a database or one of the platforms that you're using is not available natively in Databox? You'll still be able to track that data alongside your other platforms using our custom integrations. On this sidebar, you'll be able to find all the custom integration options that we offer. These include spreadsheets, custom API integrations, SQL databases, third-party integrations like Zapier and Make, and the REST API. If you're currently storing your data on a spreadsheet, we will be covering that in another video, so if that's relevant to you, make sure to keep watching. Since custom integrations are a little bit more technical and require some level of setup, we do offer custom integration services. So if that's something you would want to explore or look into, you can request assistance by just pressing this button here. Okay, so let's assume I'm a product manager and I'm tracking user behavior data on an SQL database. To connect my SQL database, I can just select the option from the sidebar. And from the data source window, I'll have two ways that I can connect this database to Databox. Similar to native integrations, I can choose to connect now, or I can ask a teammate to connect for me. Again, because custom integrations are a bit more technical, I'm not going to be diving into the details in this video, but I did want to mention that you'll have help articles linked on the data source pop-up to help you get that set up and connected properly to your account. Once your setup is done and you've connected your custom integration to your account, you'll be able to create metrics and then use those metrics on dashboards, set goals, create automated notifications, and more. In the previous video, we talked about how you could use custom integrations to sync data to Databox. Well, another way that you can do that is through spreadsheets. Databox connects to both Google Sheets and Excel so that you can track your spreadsheet data alongside your other channels. To quickly connect to either Google Sheets or Excel, you can just navigate here to the sidebar and then pick whichever one of those integrations you want to connect to. So if we first wanted to connect to Excel, we can click Excel and we would be presented with the pop-up. In the pop-up, we can see we have a few different ways to connect depending on our online storage. Plus, we also do have the option to manually upload an Excel file to our account. This is a really good option, for example, if you don't want to share access to the cloud or you don't have the right credentials to the cloud. In that case, you can just upload a file onto the upload field. There are some limitations on how the data is synced when using an Excel file upload. So for more information on that, just make sure you check out our help articles. Okay, but before we can even connect our sheets to Databox, we need to make sure that we formatted them correctly. So let's actually go ahead and check out one of the spreadsheets that I created on Google Sheets to track product inventory. Okay, so here's my Google Sheets. Obviously, I know that your Google Sheets probably look a lot more populated than mine, but for the purpose of this video, I did want to keep it quite simple, and we're just using the example of an operation manager who's looking to track product inventory in Databox. So a few things I do want to mention. The first thing is that there are two ways that you can format your Google Sheets. You can do it either vertically or horizontally. I've chosen to format my data vertically, which means that each column is going to then represent either a value, a dimension or category, and a date field. When you're formatting your data vertically, you want to make sure that the first row of every column is labeled. So you'll see here that in the first row, I have date, product name, quantity in stock, reorder level, and total value. This will just make it a lot easier for us when we're creating metrics in Databox. And that means that we'll also be able to use the wizard, which is a tool that will just make it even easier for us to create these spreadsheet metrics. The second thing I want to make sure I mention is that when creating metrics in Databox through spreadsheet data, every metric needs to have a value and a date. So we wouldn't be able to create a metric based off of product name. If we were to create a metric based off of product name, our metric would have a date field, which is mandatory, a value field, which is also mandatory, and then a dimensional field, which is optional. So in this case, our dimensional optional field would be product name. The last thing I want to make sure to mention is that we want to make sure we group our columns accordingly. So if we have more than one dimension, we want to make sure that all the dimensional columns are next to each other, and then all the value columns are next to each other. And preferably when building your sheet, you'd want date as your first column and other columns associated to date, like either date and time. And then you'd want to have your dimension, so your product name in our example, we could even add another additional dimension like product category, and then all your value columns. Okay, with our Google Sheets now formatted, let's jump back into the Databox account and actually get this connected. Okay, back in Databox, to connect this Google Sheets, I would just select Google Sheets and connect now. I've actually already connected this Google Sheets before the video, so again, I won't be running through the whole authentication process with you, but you can make use of the help articles that are linked here. So you'll be able to find information on what the authentication looks like, any credentials or permission levels that you need to connect Google Sheets, and even how to format your Google Sheets so that you can quickly create metrics using our wizard. Okay, so with my Google Sheets now connected, let's actually go and find it under my data source connection list, and let's start building some metrics. Okay, so here's my sheet, product inventory demo data, and to create metrics, I'm just gonna select CL metrics. Again, we're selecting CL metrics, but we don't have any metrics available yet. So to build a metrics, I would just select the plus button under custom metrics. Okay, so this is our Google Sheets wizard, which essentially just makes it a lot easier for you to create spreadsheet data. You can see here already that based off of the labels that I've given on my columns and how I've grouped and formatted my Google Sheet, it's automatically labeled and picked up what values are in each column. So you'll see column A is date, column B it's picked up as my dimensions, C, D, and E as my values. So here in this example, we're going to be building a metric like quantity in stock by product, so we can actually see how much stock we have of each product. So if I press continue, I can then just follow through the instructions. So here we want to select a metric value. We're wanting to look at quantity in stock. So I'll just select this one or leave it as is. So because we want to see quantity in stock by product, I would then select the dimension and leave that one as is as well. And under my date, I would just leave that as is as well. I would select the date column, but in this case, it's picking up everything for me. So I can just select continue. And here it would just give me a quick preview of what that metric would look like. I do have a few advanced ways that I can manipulate that metric by defining like how we want to aggregate that data and our values, or even how we wanted to format our numbers. But for this case, I want to leave it as is. And then the last thing we could even define is our favorable trend. So if we want to say that if we have more quantity in stock, it's a positive thing. And if we're trending down, is a negative thing. So again, we're just going to leave that as is because the more quantity we have in stock, the better. With this metric now done, we can just go ahead and press continue. And that's it. We've created our first Google Sheets metric. You can then continue to follow these steps and create more metrics off of your spreadsheet data.
One of the best parts about Databox is that it makes it really easy for you to centralize and visualize the KPIs that your team or company care about most all in one place. And in this video, we're going to cover how to track native metrics or KPIs from the software tools that you use. So first, come over to the menu and click Metrics. And here at the top, you can see we've got a few options: My Metrics, Metric Library, Custom, and Calculated Metrics. And we'll go into some detail on those other tabs later, but for this video, we're going to talk about adding metrics to My Metrics. And the great value here is that you can quickly view and access all the KPIs that you care about most in one place. Now, if you've already synced your data in the prior step and you've added integrations, then you're going to be able to select available metrics from those integrations right here. And if you didn't, don't worry. There's still opportunity for you to do that from the metrics screen here. So let's go ahead and click Add Metric. And then let's hit the drop down here. And you can see under this banner, Data Source Connections. These are all the integrations that you've made in the prior step. So if there's any data sources that you've connected or that anyone at your company has connected and shared access with, then those are going to display for you here. And then here are all available integrations. So there may be integrations that you haven't integrated yet, software tools that you've not integrated yet that you want to do, and you can do that here if you want. So for this example, let's say that I'm a marketing manager and one of my KPIs is website sessions. I really want to track sessions to our website, and that comes from GA4. So I'm going to go ahead and click GA4 and access that account. And then I'm going to search for the metric that I care about. So our KPI or metric is sessions, and I'm going to click to add that. And you will see this metric then appear here under My Metrics. Now, the other thing you can do is favorite this metric by clicking this star, and that will add this metric both to My Metrics and to your performance screen. So if you click on Home now, under Performance Overview, you can see that there is sessions here, this metric that we just added and favorited. So let's come back to the metrics screen. And then the final thing to note here is that one of the coolest things is, let's say that you want to dive into detail and look at some of the historical performance of this KPI. Maybe you want to compare it to other timelines or see other performance details about it. Sometimes it can be a little bit cumbersome to go looking for just one KPI. If all you need to do is sort of like double click into the KPI to learn more about it, it can be a little cumbersome to go looking through different dashboards where you're, seeing multiple metrics in one place to try and look at it. So this is where this My Metrics screen really comes in handy. Instead, I can find the KPI I want here, click View Details, and then you get this really nice sort of visualization auto-generated for you, and we can change the timeline. We can hover over and look at historical performance, and we can also review some handy historical performance here, like last month, comparing it to week to date, month to date, or year to date. And we're adding more insights here that will be coming soon. So this is just a great screen where if you want to dive deeper into a specific KPI to look at historical performance and in the future benchmark and forecast data around it, you'll be able to do that. Okay, so now we know how to track KPIs or metrics from native integrations. So this is great. You can pull metrics and visualize KPIs from the software tools that your company or your team use all in one place. But the trouble is that a lot of the KPIs that we care most about in our teams or in our companies require calculating multiple metrics together or combining metrics from a bunch of different tools. So what do we do there? That's where custom metrics and calculated metrics come into play. They let you track metrics or KPIs that normally would require calculating multiple metrics or combining different data sources. For example, homepage conversion rate or total ad spend across all platforms. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. Let's start with custom metrics. Custom metrics let you create metrics for select data sources by adding dimensions, segments, filters, and more. For example, let's say that I'm a sales manager and I want to track one of my KPIs is performance by sales rep. That's a metric that I want to keep my eye on. So I would go to custom metrics and then let's hit create new custom metric. All right, so first we're going to choose the data source. And in my case, this is going to be HubSpot CRM. I'm going to leave it on deals because this is what I want to track. And then the metric is going to be count of deals. And now this is where the custom metrics is really popular. We can filter down into the dimension. So for dimension, I'm going to look for deal owner. Okay. And then for date field, let's go ahead and choose the close date. That's how I want to track it, by close date. And then let's give this custom metric a name. In our case, we'll call it performance by rep. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and hit preview data. Okay, great. So here we can see the performance of all of our sales rep. We see the count of deals by deal owner. And so we're calling this custom metrics performance by rep. And let's just call it demo for the sake of this video, and we'll hit save. Now, Databox is going to ask you, do you want to create a new data board with this custom metric, which you can do right away if that's something you want to do, or you can select an existing data board to add it to. You can also set a default visualization type. For now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to go ahead and click no. I will add it manually later. Now, that's custom metrics, but let's take a look at calculated metrics. These let you combine data from any data source in an equation to create new calculated metrics. For example, conversion rates, return on investment, return on ad spend, those are all great examples of sort of custom metrics, but that require calculation. And that's where we want to go for that. So let's say that I'm a marketing manager and I want to create a metric called homepage conversion rate. Well, first we would go to new calculated metric, and we can see that we can build our equation here. So I'll go ahead and click the A box here. And so first we're going to need homepage traffic. Now, this is a custom metric actually that I created prior to setting up this video that basically uses the custom metric functionality to take all of our sessions, but then only filter down by dimension of page path. That basically is the trailing slash for the home page. So I've taken GA4 sessions, but filtered it down to just the home page in order to create a custom metric called homepage traffic. So now for my formula to complete it, I want my total homepage traffic divided by the number of product signups that it drives. So let's go ahead and find, and for that, for this example, I have a metric ready to go called product signups demo. Okay, so here we can see that in the calculation we're building, we take the total traffic to the home page, a custom metric that I developed using Databox custom metrics, and then I've got, in this case, it's a Google Sheet for you. If this was a SaaS product, you could use Mixpanel or something like that. You could track whatever your call to action or conversion would be. In my case, for this example, I'm using a Google Sheet and tracking the signups there. So this is my total homepage traffic divided by the total product signups that I got. And let me go ahead and give this a name. So I'll call this homepage signup conversion rate. Now, we can see that it's displaying in a decimal, and we can go ahead and change the date range here. We can play with that to make sure everything looks right. We can see that it's displaying as a decimal. So if I wanted to display it as a percentage, I could come over to Format, scroll down, and do percentage. And obviously, for the purpose of this video with these examples, that's an insanely high conversion rate. Congratulations to you if you're if you're new to that. It's obviously an unrealistic homepage conversion rate, but that's ours for this demo example. So now we've got this divided by this. What we could do if we needed a more advanced calculation is we could continue adding different metrics. We could click this to drop down, and we could do subtraction, division, multiplication. We could wrap different metrics in parentheses if we wanted to get really complicated. And so this is a really powerful feature where you can calculate different metrics from one or more data sources together in order to get the exact metric that you need. For example, if we wanted to calculate the total ad spend across all platforms, we could do total spend or ad spend from Facebook, ad spend, from TikTok, ads, etc., and continue adding all of it up together to equal a sum total and display it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save for my homepage signup conversion rate. And once again, it's asking me, do I want to add this to a new data board or an existing data board? I'm going to skip this for now. And so finally, let's put it all together by wrapping this up. And let's save one of these to my metrics, because this is a KPI I want to keep my eye on. So I'm going to say homepage sign up conversion rate. There it is. I'll go ahead and click the dimension. And there it is. I'm going to go ahead and favorite it because I want to see it on my performance overview screen. So now this is something that I can track closely alongside my other sessions and signups. Okay, in this video, we're going to cover building a custom dashboard. So whereas with the metrics that we recently covered, you're able to visualize individual KPIs or metrics and kind of drill down into them, the value of custom dashboards is that you can visualize performance from two or more data sources, whether they're native software tools that you use like marketing or sales tools, or coming through custom API through your product or an SQL database, or even spreadsheets. You're able to visualize multiple metrics from multiple sources side by side, and you're going to get insights that those numbers in basic spreadsheets just can't show you. So in order to start building a custom dashboard, come to the left-hand side under Data Boards. Now there's a few ways to get started. You could get started through a wizard. And if you click New Data Board here, you can see we've got Use Wizard or Start Blank. So using a wizard is great. If you know the metrics that you want to use, the wizard will walk through. You just select the metrics that you want, and then it will walk you through selecting them and then spit out a data board at the end, and it'll sort of build it for you. You can also do a template. So you can come here and browse public templates, and here you'll find relevant templates by use case or by team. Popular templates like a social media, dashboard that a social media manager might use, for example. So you can find relevant templates here, and you can start with just a couple clicks and then replace with your data. And the other way that you can do it is just to start fresh. So that's what we're going to do in this video. If you want a fresh start and just drag and drop the metrics that you want, you can go ahead to Start Blank. So let's come here and we have a fresh data board. The first thing we'll do is look at the two panels. The left panel on the right allows you to take a look at various visualization types. And then the metric library here is where we can pick the metrics that we want to drag and drop on. And then on the right side, once we drag and drop metrics on, we're going to have some additional options of what we want to do with those views over here. So let's start by tracking, let's pick a few different metrics. Let's look at sessions from GA4. Okay, that was one that we looked at here, so we'll drag and drop that on. And once you drag and drop something on, you actually have the ability to resize it. So I can drag it over here, and then you see some of these options come up on the right-hand side. So that's one, and then let's take a look at homepage traffic. Okay, put that here. And let's say we want to make that the same size underneath it. And then let's do HubSpot new leads. Okay, let's put that there. Okay, so if I want to, I could drag this down to make everything even. So here I've got my custom dashboard. It's as simple as that. You basically select the integration and the metrics that you want, that you've previously either synced in your data manager or when you've added the metrics. And if not, you can still sync and add them here, and then you drag and drop them on and resize them. We also have the ability to change the color of the board. So I could change this, for example, to red or something like that. We'll change it here to purple for better visualization. And then we can name the data board. So we'll call it my first data board. Okay, so at this point, we've just built our first dashboard inside of a minute or so. Drag and drop the metrics on, resize them. We give the data board a name and change the color. And again, the beauty here is that you can visualize metric from a dozen different sources side by side. So if you were in marketing, for example, and you wanted to view paid ad performance, you could have metrics from every ad platform that you track alongside web traffic or SEO performance and email performance and everything. The other thing that we'll cover in this video is sharing a public URL. So when we get done with this, we can copy the public URL, and sharing this will let anyone view it. So immediately I can copy this, ping it to my team in Slack, or post it in my company's wiki, or share it with anyone with a client. And it's accessible. They don't need an account. They don't need to log in and view it. It will share a publicly accessible web page where they can view this performance data. And we will go a little deeper into this later into some of your share options. But when we come to copy public URL, you can see some additional options if you come to share and then click shareable link. We do have a couple other options here. Here's this link again. And if we click additional settings, we can limit this link to IP addresses or protect it with a password. So if you do need to protect it and not have it open, those are a couple options that you have. And we'll go over more sharing options in a later video. Okay, now that we've got our data board made, let's talk about some ways that we can customize how the data is presented, which is really important because this helps you more effectively communicate the insights that you're trying to visualize to stakeholders. So we've got a lot to cover here. We'll keep it pretty high level, but remember that you can always dive deeper into help docs, or our customer support team can help you set up any of this. So the first thing is we can change the design. We already looked at one way to do that, but if you click the visual tab here up at the top, you can't just change the background color. You can also change the chart theme. We can add a background image or a company logo here. The other thing we can do, which is really cool, is actually change the data block chart, an individual data block's chart visualization type on the fly. So, if you remember from last video, when I dragged and dropped, new leads over as a metric, we chose the bar visualization. But let's say that now that I'm looking at it, it just doesn't really pop or, make the data stand out and get the insights that I want. And there's better visualization types to help these insights stand out. If we click a data block on the right-hand side, under the visualization tab, we see type, and we can drop that down, and I can change this, for example, to a number or a line. So these are things you can change on the fly so that if you find a better visualization, you can change that as you go through. And the other thing you can do, let me change this back real quick. The next thing we can customize is the date range. So there's two ways to do this. We can change the date range for an individual data block. We also can change the date range for all the metrics on the data board. So this is really handy for when we want to just change, like let's see how performance was last year versus last quarter or last month. We can change all the metrics all at once right down here by changing it all. Or if we want just one to be compared differently, we can do that here on this visualization tab on the right-hand side. There are also additional settings. If you scroll down here inside this, we can see that we can change font size, for example, and there's a lot of additional things that you can play with here that we won't cover in the scope of this video. One of the other really cool things you can do inside an individual data block is compare multiple metrics side by side. And this is really cool for when, let's say that we want to, we obviously have added 3 total metrics on this data board. We could have dragged and dropped a ton more on, but sometimes, for example, in this bar chart visualization, I might want to compare 2 metrics or 3 metrics side by side and see how the lines line up and analyze data that way. And you can do that on the metrics tab over here on the right-hand side. So we see that we've added new leads as our first metric, but here I can add a second one or a third one and so on. So let's say here I'm going to do a drop down and let's go to deals. Let's go to deals created in our HubSpot CRM. So here now we can compare deals created alongside new leads side by side. If we want to get rid of it, we can either minimize it here and add another metric, or for example, we can drop down and hit delete and remove this and set it back. And finally, a really cool thing that we can do is add annotations. These are especially useful for, often when you're sending a data board over for your team or your clients or your board to review, it's helpful to provide context around why performance is what it is. So let's say, for example, that we changed ad targeting or ad spend, or we launched a big campaign and that resulted in a spike in leads or, in website sessions, or there was a dip in traffic or email performance or something. We could let people know that in 2 ways. One is we actually could add a text block to the chart with a little bit of notes. So for example, on the left-hand side here, if we look at visualization types, there is a text block, and we could drag and drop that on, and we could expand it out, of course, and drag it around and add formatted text here. Let me get rid of that. Another way, though, we can do it is actually by adding annotations directly to a chart itself. So for example, let's come over here to this chart. We have homepage traffic. So let's say I want to add an annotation around a week or a month. There is a plus icon underneath a specific date range, and we can click this and hit add annotation. So we can set a date around the annotation and then provide a description. So for example, launched a new campaign or changed ad targeting, and then we can save. And that way our viewers, when they hover over this important point, can get some context around why performance is what it is. Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about how you can group multiple dashboards together so that you can view all the relevant performance data you need in one place using looped data boards. This is especially useful if, let's say, you're the founder or CEO and you know that your team has created a bunch of important marketing or sales or product or customer support dashboards, but you want to pick certain dashboards, put them all together so that you can have a comprehensive view called overall company performance. Or let's say, for example, you're the sales director or you're the marketing director. Chances are that you've got multiple dashboards for the initiatives that you're running. So for example, if I'm the marketing director, my team might have dashboards related to SEO or website performance or brand marketing, paid ads, email performance. And so those are all individual dashboards with their own metrics tracking those individual departments or the individual campaigns. But I want to view my overarching marketing performance all in one place. And that's where I could use loop data boards to group the SEO, the brand, the email, the paid dashboards all together so that I could have one comprehensive view of my marketing performance. So in order to access this, we've got my first data board with a first few metrics and some dummy data here to walk you through. At the bottom here, you'll see it says looped data boards, and you've got the option to create a new data board or link with an existing data board. So in our case, we don't need to keep creating new ones that are looped in. We've got some existing ones here that I want to make sure I loop together to create a comprehensive marketing overview. So I'm going to go ahead and click link. And now we can search for the data boards we need by name. We have a few sorting options. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the ones created by me. And here they are. I've named them conveniently marketing, SEO, funnel, and brand. So I'm going to go ahead and select these. And here we can see the data sources that these include. And I'm going to go ahead and hit select. Now we've got a few options here. First, we can actually reorder the way in which these data boards are displayed. So for example, let's say I wanted the brand one first, we could do that, or the marketing funnel first. We also have the option, if we missed one, to go back and add another data board, and then let's name it. So in this case, we're going to say marketing overview. We also can change the loop time. So right now, when we view this or present this, every 60 seconds by default, it's going to change views and show another data board, but we could click this and maybe change it to every 30 seconds, for example. And then we're going to go ahead and click save. And now you can see we've got different options here. We can see the order in which all this is displayed. We can scroll through. And now we've got the marketing overview loop. And now I can see all these data boards in one place, all part of my marketing performance overview. So if I want, I can go back and edit the loop. And then we've got the same share options here that you saw if you watched the share options for an individual data board. We have a link that we can share. So let's say that I want to send this to the CEO, so he or she has full access to all of our marketing performance and marketing overview. I can share it as a link. I have embed options. We have some agencies that use this. For example, they can embed in a ClickUp file or in like a private web page for clients. We also can stream to TV. This is popular among sales teams who are meeting in office and want to scroll through and view sales performance or leaderboards and stream it to the TV. So we've got a lot of share options here for this loop, the same way that we would an individual data board. Okay, so let's go ahead and view the full screen option. If we click view loop, now we're going to view a full screen option, and this is where it's going to scroll through. We have a pause option here, and we set the duration for 30 seconds. And so every 30 seconds, it's going to come through and scroll through all of these. And because it's live, we've got the ability still to change the date range here, which is really cool and really powerful. So we'll go ahead and close out of that. Okay, now let's say that we want to edit or go back and view some of the loops that we've already created. Well, we can do that too. If we come under data boards here on the left-hand side, and instead of data boards, switch it over to loop data boards. And now we can see the marketing overview loop that we just created, and we can go in and make changes there. All right, in this video, we're going to cover how you can read a summary of your performance using the performance screen. The performance screen basically allows each user in your company to select and access the metrics, goals, data boards, or reports that matter most to them at a glance. To access it, you just simply click the home icon on the left-hand navigation and you'll come here. And now this is pretty empty because this is the demo account, but we'll walk through some of the options that you have here. First, notice that there are three main sections. First, we have our performance overview here in the center. This is where we can add or view up to 10 selected metrics or goals. Then we have our recently viewed, and we can see that we could jump back into some of the assets here in Databox that we are recently working on. And then on the right-hand side, we can view trending metrics and insights. So we can look and see what metrics are trending up or down, or we could click here and view activity happening within the account. Okay, so let's talk about how to add a metric or goal to your performance overview. One of the easiest ways to do it is to come and find an empty plus box here and click this, and we can select metric or goal. So I'll go ahead and add a metric, and let's say that we want to do, let's do our deals metric, which we did again, and we'll do deals created from within HubSpot. And you can see that we've added that here, and we could go on and add the next one. We could add a goal or add a number of other metrics. There's also something that you'll begin to see, which is color coding going on here. So you can read more about this in our knowledge base, but you'll see the color green to indicate positive change on a goal if something's on track, red if there's negative change, blue if there's no comparison for metrics, or yellow if your goal is at risk. So if you add a goal here and there's color indications, that will give you a quick visual illustration of how things are going. Okay, so let's go ahead and add two more metrics here just for an example. Let's do active users, and we'll go ahead and add another metric Let's see, deals closed 1. And obviously everything's looking red here because as a demo account with dummy data, everything has been trending down. Okay, now that we've added 4 metrics here, we can see one last thing, which is our AI-powered performance summary. If we scroll up to the top, this requires 3 or more metrics in order to populate, but we leverage Databox AI in order to provide a comprehensive performance summary, doing tailored recommendations on how to improve. So we can see that we can filter by the last 7 days or the last 30 days, and this gives basically an auto-generated update on how all these key metrics that I've added here are performing. So this is the performance screen is especially useful and valuable for a few use cases. Let's say that you're a busy manager and you want to keep a pulse on your team's performance. Maybe you've got multiple team members that are all working on different campaigns or different areas of sales or something like that. You could pin your most important metrics here and your most important goals, and then every time you log in, you're able to get a quick written overview here generated by AI and get a quick visual and see what's trending up or down, so you can quickly hone in on what needs to be worked on improving, what maybe you should be flagging for importance to address with other team members, etc. The other use case might be an account manager at a marketing agency, and there you want to add key metrics from a client's campaign so that you get a quick performance overview of that and you can see the health of their campaign or what's trending up or down and what you need to pay attention to. So this is all accessible in the performance overview.
You've connected your platforms to Databox. You've then selected the metrics that matter to you, and then you visualize them on a dashboard. Well, now you can share your insights with your team, your clients, or your managers. So in the data board designer, we'll just navigate to send. And by clicking on that, it will give us a pop-up with all the different sharing options that we have. So I won't be running through the shareable link because we did talk about that in the building custom dashboards video. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, I would encourage you to just go back and rewatch the video. Or you can also make use of our knowledge base to learn more about how to use this option. Okay, so to briefly run you through send to email, this option will allow you to send a once-off email directly from Databox with an export of your dashboard. You can choose to include a personalized subject line and a personalized note. You can also choose to include a shareable link of your dashboard, which means that once your recipients receive the email, they'll be able to access the dashboard as well through the public link. And this will be a bit more interactive because they'll be able to hover over specific date ranges, values, and also update the date range for specific data blocks or the whole entire dashboard. The next option that we have is send to Slack. By connecting your Slack account to Databox, you'll actually be able to send dashboards directly to your Slack channels. So for example, if you're a sales manager and you're giving weekly updates on your performance to your team, you would be able to do that through Databox. For embed, you can copy this HTML code to actually embed a live version of your dashboard either on your website or your CRM systems. And by using Stream to TV, you're actually going to be able to present your dashboard on your company TV. So for example, again, if you're a sales manager and you'd like to display a dashboard so your team can see how you're trending month to date, you'd be able to use this option to do that. Okay, and the last option I want to talk to you about is a scheduled snapshot. So a scheduled snapshot will allow you to schedule a recurring PDF or a JPEG export of your dashboard on a recurring basis. So this is really good if you are running monthly meetings to update your whole entire company on your performance, or you're running weekly updates, or for example, at the end of the week, you want to receive a dashboard to see how you are trending. Scheduled snapshots will allow you to do that. So under send to email, if we just select here, create a scheduled snapshot, we'd actually be able to select how often we'd like to receive the snapshot. So under frequency, we would either select between daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Then we can select a specific day and even a specific time. Again, similar to send to email, we would specify email recipients. I do want to note that email recipients do not need to be users in Databox. You can actually add recipients who have not been included as users on the account. And then you'll also be able to add a custom subject line and a personalized note. Again, you could also choose to include a shareable link. You could also then, if you have connected your Slack account to Databox, choose the option to deliver this dashboard on Slack. So once again, if we're going back to the sales manager example and you're giving weekly updates on your performance, by setting this up, it will automatically send those dashboards to the Slack channel so your whole entire team can see how you're doing. In this video, we're going to be talking about notifications. Notifications are a great way for you to report on your performance automatically, so you can make sure everyone in your team or company knows how you're performing. For example, you can use notifications to send marketing updates on a Slack channel, or you can even use notifications to send weekly updates to your clients on key performance metrics. To set up notifications, we're just going to click on the notifications icon in the menu. And you'll see here that we have a few different options. In this video, we're just going to be covering scorecards, but you can obviously leverage our help article to learn more about our other notification options. And we also will be mentioning them in other videos. Okay, so let's create our scorecard. So with the scorecard, you can actually monitor up to 15 metrics to receive updates on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So let's assume that I'm a marketing manager and I want to create a scorecard for my marketing team so that we can keep tabs on key metrics related to our performance. So using the drop-down menu, let's just start by selecting sessions. And let's also select something like bounce rate. For the purpose of this video, I'll just keep this very simple, but again, you can add up to 15 metrics, so you can just keep following that same process and just selecting the drop-down menu and picking other metrics. And we'll see here that as we select metrics, we will be able to get a preview. We can then further customize this scorecard by selecting different background colors. So I'll keep mine at blue. And let's also give this a name. So I'm going to do marketing updates. Okay, cool. We can also then select our delivery options. And since we have different team members with different preferences, we can actually select more than one delivery option. So in this case, I'll leave email and mobile selected. But if I had connected my Slack marketing channel, I would then probably also tick this option so that my team could get this update directly on Slack. What we can then do as well is decide when we want this delivered. So if it's a weekly update, we can just select weekly, and we can do it maybe at the end of the week, close to the end of the day. And I want my scorecards to get delivered to me and my other teammates. So I'm going to select me and other users. And under here, I can select my team. So I can just go ahead and pick all the other team members that I want to get this update. And that's it. You can choose to send a preview before saving so you can see what this notification would look like for the recipients. And then when you're done, you can just press save. And here we can see our scorecard. In this video, we're going to cover building presentations or reports. Whereas with dashboards, you're able to visualize your performance in real time to help you answer, how am I doing right now? The value of reports is that you can present the whole story of your performance with all the context to your clients or teams automatically. So you'll use a combination of data, text, and images to provide a record or story of your historical performance. So for example, this could be a report that you build to tell a story of how you performed last quarter to your entire company, or a report you send to your clients to show them how their paid ads campaign performed last month. So to actually build a report, let's navigate here to the sidebar and select reports. There are a few ways that you can actually get started. You can choose to just select New Report, and that will allow you to create a report from scratch. Or you can choose to start with a template. And here you'll be able to then filter the templates either by team or even by data source. And then by selecting Use Template, it will actually replace the template with your own data. And lastly, you can even choose to turn your dashboard loops into a report. This is a great option because you won't need to recreate or rebuild your data in your presentations. You can essentially just make use of what you've already built and then just layer on additional insights. Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll navigate to data boards, and we're going to start with a loop. By selecting the drop-down menu, we can choose to turn our marketing overview loop into a report. Okay, so since we started with a loop, we have a pretty good foundation to start with. To continue building our reports, we can just then add on additional slides. So by selecting this drop-down arrow, we'll be able to see all the slides that are available to us. You can choose to add a dashboard to export a whole entire dashboard into your presentation. You can choose to add a cover slide to your report. You can choose a text slide to include your key findings, or an image slide to include images of your top performing posts, ad views, competition, reviews, your top performance, or even your office dog, whatever you choose to highlight on your report. You can also choose a side-by-side slide, which will allow you to drill down into the performance of one particular metric. So here you're really digging into the details of your performance and can start discussions around your core KPIs. And lastly, you can choose to include a data story slide, which includes dynamic elements about your metrics that are then updated automatically. So for this video, let's go ahead and create a side-by-side slide. And here we want to dig into the performance of sessions. So to add sessions, I would just click the plus button and select Add Metrics, and we can search for sessions. Okay, so I've added my metric sessions, and now I want to explain the performance of this metric in a little bit more detail. So to add a text block, I could just select Add Item and Add Text. I could choose to either type down my analysis myself, or I actually also have the option of using a data story on this slide. So to do that, I can just select these three dots, Add Data Story, and I'll just select the first option. Again, we'll specify we're looking at sessions, and we'll add to report. Okay, great. Now we have a few ways that we can actually continue to customize this report. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start by giving my slide a title. And I'll also change the slide name here. So for this one, I'll say Sessions Performance. Okay, great. I can also choose to change the visual settings. So by selecting this drop-down arrow, I have the options of picking what I want my slide color to be. So let's just change this one to blue. Here at the bottom, I also have the date range, so I can choose to set a different date range for this slide. And for this video, let's go ahead and look at last month. So we can just change that. Perfect. We can also choose to move our slides around. So for this slide, I want it to be under the first slide that we have. So I'll move it to the second position. Okay. And the last thing is that I can even add notes to every slide to help facilitate conversations around specific metrics or dashboards, and also to structure the presentation delivery. So just by clicking here at the bottom, you'll be able to start typing in your notes. You can also use this section to even provide additional context or draw correlations between one or more metrics. And to continue building your report, you would just continue following those steps by just adding additional slide types until you finish building your presentation. And then once you're done building your presentation, you can schedule it to be delivered automatically at a regular time interval. So by clicking Schedule, we can follow the instructions here on the pop-up to create a schedule for delivery. A few things that I do want to mention here is recipients do not need to be Databox users. You can type in your client emails or any other stakeholders who would like to receive these reports without them being users on the account. So I'll select a few of my teammates to receive this report. You'll also be able to add a custom subject line and a custom note. I'll leave this as is, but it is an option that you have to send a custom subject line and note when this report is delivered. And then lastly, we would select our frequency. So for example, if we wanted to deliver our reports every quarter, under frequency, we would select quarter, specify the date. So in my case, I'd like to send it in the beginning of the quarter and a time, and then select create new schedule. With our presentations now done, we do have a few other options. You can choose to download your report as a PDF, or you can send it via email once off, or you can even create a reminder. So this is a great option, for example, if you're sending out reports to clients or even stakeholders, and you want to make sure that you have enough time to check the presentation and make changes before it's scheduled for delivery. Okay, so with our reports now set up, we'll actually be able to view the next time our presentation is scheduled for delivery. So to view that, we can just go back to reports and select the tab scheduled. So we'll see here that we have it scheduled to be sent out in 15 days. And then if we navigate here to archive, we'll be able to see a list of all the past reports that have been delivered with an option to download as PDF. So again, this is just a repository of past reports. So it's a great way for you to reference if it's something you wanted to look at in the future. In this video, we're going to cover how you can use alerts to proactively monitor your performance. The value here is that by setting up alerts, you'll be able to address issues in real time as they're happening versus addressing any issues after the fact and then trying to guess what went wrong. So to set up alerts, let's navigate to the notifications icon on the sidebar. And then here at the top, from the tab, we can select alerts and new alert. Okay, so for this video, let's assume I'm a marketing manager and I want to monitor any trends in sessions to our website. And I want to be monitoring these trends week over week so that we have enough time to adjust our strategies if something goes wrong. So to set up this alert, we can select sessions as our metric. And under the condition, we want emerging trends. So this could either be an increase or a decrease. So we do have a few options, but for this example, we're going to select a percentage increase or decrease. To set our qualifier, let's say we've reviewed our sessions, how our sessions performed over time, and we know that a 10% either increase or decrease is a good qualifier. So let's go ahead and select 10 as our qualifier. And because we want to be looking at last week's performance or week over week performance, we'll have the period of last 7 days, and we want to compare it to the previous period. So right now, the way that this alert is set up, it means that any time that my performance has either increased or decreased by more than 10% compared to the previous period, an alert will be triggered and sent to either me and the other recipients that I specify on these alerts. And you'll see here that as I've set up the alert, I also do have a preview. So this is what the alert will look like when it's delivered to you and your team members. Under your delivery options, we do have a few options. You can select email, mobile, Slack. If you do have your Slack connected, you can send an alert to your Slack channels. And we can also pick more than one delivery option because since this alert will be delivered to you and other recipients, you can accommodate all the preferred communication types. So because in this example, I'm the marketing manager and my team is responsible for sessions, I want to deliver this alert to me and my other team members. So under recipients, I will select all the other team members. And then we do also have a few options to customize your alerts. So by selecting advanced settings, you can choose to customize the messaging that goes out with these alerts. And you can also choose to include related metrics to give your alerts more context. So in this example, since I'm looking at sessions, a related metric that I could choose to tie to this alert is something like bounce rate. So that means that anytime this alert is triggered, I can then get notified as well and have a little bit more detail on the why, or some of the reasons why this alert was triggered. And then once you're done setting up your alert, you can just go ahead and press save.
In this video, we're going to talk about how you can set and track your company goals in Databox. Often, companies don't realize that they've missed a goal that they've set until it's too late to do anything about it. But Databox lets you set goals, track their progress in real time, and get alerts if you're off track from hitting them so you can take course corrective action now. So for example, you can use Databox to let your sales leaders set monthly call goals for AEs, or so that your marketing leader can set a quarterly goal or annual goal to increase website sessions or something like that. So in order to get to goals, on the left-hand nav, we can click Goals. And here we can see an overview of goals. We, of course, could sort them. We could look at goals by data source or by date range or who they're owned by. But let's go ahead and click Create New Goal. So first, we're going to select the metric. And in my case, it's going to be website sessions from GA4. And then we select an input type. We can set another metric as a goal value, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it on manual because there's a fixed number I want to set here. And so let's go ahead and set our goal values. I can see that last month, Databox is telling me that I've got almost 16,000 sessions last month. So this is nice because this can help me set a realistic but still achievable and data-informed goal. So for example, I might say, okay, let me try and raise this to 20,000. Let's say that that's my goal. I'm going to aim for 20,000 sessions. Now, this is great. We could select daily, weekly, quarterly, annually, and keep it that simple. Or a really cool feature, if we want to break up our goal into more bite-sized pieces, is that we could add more date ranges. And here, you can see that Databox has gone ahead and projected out what that would be quarterly or annually. And so I could change this or add a yearly goal or a quarterly goal or something like that. So this is all connected here. If we click this link icon, it will actually turn off proportionally calculated goal values. So what this does is keeps my goal values proportionate based off of what I selected. But if you wanted to weight them differently, you could turn this off and update it. But I'm going to leave it toggled on. And so, for example, let's say that I want to have this monthly and I want to toggle on a yearly goal. Okay, and then let's select the visualization type. We have the progress bar, which will indicate, as you might expect, progress, how far you are from hitting your goal, versus a line chart, which is how you're trending towards your goal. So I'm going to leave it towards progress bar, and let's give it a name. We'll call it Increase Website Traffic. And then we can pick the goal owner. So I'm going to leave it defaulted to myself, but you could pick this to a team member who's meant to own this goal. And then finally, you can have alert options. By default, it's set to alert when the goal has been hit, which I'm going to leave. This is something that I want. And your other alert option is when the goal probably won't be hit. And this is really important to me. So I'm going to leave this toggled on because I want to get notified when I'm unlikely to hit my goal so I can proactively take action. And that's a really cool feature here in Databox. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay. And that's it. My goal has been saved. I can scroll down here and view my new goal. I can track it. I can edit it over time. And I see that I've got 20 days left on my monthly goal, and I can see how I'm trending toward it. We even get a performance overview here that we can read. So that's the basics of setting and tracking your goals in one place in Databox. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can forecast future performance in Databox. Databox forecasts help you predict future performance so that you can make more accurate plans now. For example, your marketing team might use forecasts to set more accurate goals for leads or for traffic. Your sales team might use it to anticipate how many closed won deals they're set to have. Leaders at your company might use it to inform quarterly or annual plans. So there's a lot you can do with forecasts. And to get started, access it by clicking the forecast icon on the left-hand menu. And then here we see that we can select a metric to forecast. So let's go ahead and pick one. In this, I'm going to use an example that marketing might use, for example, to see how many newsletter subscribers were forecasted. Let's say we're investing in our newsletter. In this case, at Databox, we have a newsletter called Move the Needle. So we'll go ahead and forecast that. And this comes from HubSpot. Okay, here we see our forecast. So the first thing we're able to do is go ahead and look at the forecasting period. So this is for the next 24 months, but you can see that we could forecast this period for this month, for this year, for a custom period. So you can set this to a number of times in the future in order to hone the forecast how you want it. I'm going to go ahead and leave it like this for now. And then we see another thing, which is the upper and lower forecast. So this allows us to sort of aim for the best case scenario, but plan for the worst. So we can see that maybe on the lower end, we would be down here. And then maybe on the upper end, we would be down here. And then the blue trend line continues on for what is in the middle here. So I can see that, over the next 24 months, we're anticipated to grow this to 18,348 subscribers to our newsletter. And then this gives you a nice written summary here. So this is really useful for forecasting and helping you set data-informed plans, whether you're in marketing, sales, revenue, even product. You can forecast signups and things like that based off of how you've historically performed. Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about how you can compare your company or team's performance to other companies like yours using Databox benchmarks. To access benchmarks, just click on the benchmark tab on the left-hand side. And benchmarks are valuable because a lot of times you want to know things like, is my cost per click too high? Are we paying too much for ads or above average? Is my traffic as good as other SaaS companies or could it stand to be improved? Is my close rate good? And benchmarks help you answer these questions and more. And so in short, benchmark data helps you see where you're ahead of the curve and where there's room to improve and maybe you're behind the curve so that you can quickly identify where you should focus your time. It's also valuable because you can prove the value of your efforts. So maybe you're presenting to the board or maybe you're presenting marketing or sales performance and you're able to say, look, we're outperforming, most companies like us. Our marketing, efforts are outperforming those. Our traffic is higher or our ad cost is lower, whatever it may be. Is better than other companies like ours. So there's a lot of values. And one final value you can use benchmarks for is setting more realistic goals. So besides being able to quickly identify where you're behind the curve and maybe there's low hanging fruit and some quick opportunities to improve, you can also use it to set goals and say, what are some growth goals that are realistic but achievable? And you can base those off of what the top quartile or the top 25% of companies like yours are doing. So maybe you have traffic goals and you want to know what's realistic or what you could aspire to, and you can base it around some benchmark data. So Databox makes this super simple. Let's go ahead and actually look at one benchmark. So when you come to benchmarks, my benchmarks will explore any that you've pinned or saved here. We don't have any yet in this demo account, so let's go ahead and pick one. So we'll go to Benchmark Explorer. It defaults to one of the last metrics I had pulled up. So let's go ahead and look at sessions. We've been building dashboard with sessions and looking at it in other ways, so let's go ahead and look here. Now, what we can see here is that we are outperforming 71% of companies in the cohort, but there's no cohort specified yet. The cohort is specified on the right-hand side, so we'll cover that in just a minute. So let me explain what you're looking at a little bit here. What we have with this visual is the bottom quartile, which is the left-hand side where the color starts to come in. So that's the bottom 25%. Then where the color sort of drops off at the top, that's what the top 25% do. And then the median is what is the middle doing? What is the average or the median performing at? So we can see that in this example, it's performing at the median of companies. The average gets, roughly 4.8 thousand sessions every month. These are the data period is for the month. And you can see how many contributors it pulled data from to get a rough idea of how many it's surveying. So in this case, out of 9,000 companies, the median get 4.8 thousand sessions a month. We are doing quite well at 15.9 thousand sessions a month. And so you can see where you're placed along this. Now, this is just for 9,000 companies, right? But maybe we want to compare ourselves to B2B or to SaaS or something like that. So we can select an industry here. We could scroll down and browse these different industries, or we could do business type. So in my case, maybe I want to do B2B. And I don't really necessarily want to compare myself against like enterprise or things like that. So let's go ahead and take the employee size down to, let's go up to 1,000. And then let's just let the revenue be what it is, but we'll keep the employee size at 1,000. We'll hit apply changes. And now it's going to apply my cohort changes and narrow down to companies that meet these cohort parameters. Okay, so the benchmark has loaded and you can see that we've got our cohort selected of B2B. We're looking at only employee sizes of 1 to 1,000. We don't want to go any higher than that because we're trying to sort of filter out big enterprise companies. And now we can see that it's changed. Now instead of 9,000 some companies, now we're looking at just over 1,300 contributors. So we've narrowed it down quite a bit. And we can still see, we get an estimate here of what we're outperforming. So in my case, I'm outperforming 98% of the companies in the cohort. We're far above the top quartile. And now we can see the median has changed. The median is 5.2 thousand. So we can get a rough look at this. And this allows us to see just at a glance how we're performing compared to companies like ours. We could go back and filter down by industry. We could narrow down by revenue and really refine the cohort as much as we wanted to. But as you can see, this would be really valuable because this will give you at a glance a quick idea of how am I performing compared to other companies like me. So let's say, for example, I was doing just over 2,000 sessions a month. If I know that I'm below the median, then I know that I probably have some room to grow. And maybe this is an area I could focus on. Whereas, if we're way above the median or in the top quartile, maybe around 17,000 sessions a month, then maybe we don't worry about growing that area as much and we look for another area, where maybe we're underperforming. So for example, we could come here and drop down and choose close rate or something like that, or the number of deals that we're getting. And we could explore this from a variety of ways and see where it is that we're underperforming so we could focus on improving. We could see where we're outperforming, and maybe that's our unfair sort of competitive advantage, and we're going to double down there, like maybe sessions for us. And in Databox's case, indeed, it's the case that our organic efforts are a huge advantage for us with SEO. So we're going to, double down there. It also allows us to set goals based around this. So, maybe if I was a little bit lower, maybe around 3,000 or so, I might set 5.2 thousand as an aggressive but realistic goal because that's what the median of companies like me are doing. So I know that I'm not sort of picking an arbitrary number out of thin air. I'm picking it from what the median's doing or from what the top quartile is doing. So this is benchmarks in a nutshell. If we want to track this benchmark over time, we can go ahead and click add to benchmarks. And then when we come to my benchmarks here, we can see this and we'll be able to view details and track it over time.
In this video, we're going to talk about Databox's agency features. As an agency, you're probably way too familiar with the time drain of monthly reporting. Spending 2 to 5 days compiling reports for all of your clients is not an effective use of your time or your team's time. With Databox, you get access to a range of agency features that will help you streamline your processes and save time. By centralizing all of your client data in one place and making use of our automation features, you'll be able to give your team back the time that they need to move the needle on important tasks. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and add our first client to the account. There are 2 ways that we can do this. We can do this either by selecting the switch client icon and just pressing new client, or we can just click on the client's icon, which will redirect us to the client's account screen. And then to add a new client, we can just click the button new client. So from this pop-up, I can actually add all of my clients in one go. So if I'm an account manager that has 4 accounts in the agency, I can add all of those 4 accounts in one go. Here, I'd be able to specify the client name, their website, which is an optional field, and the account manager, which in my case is me, but we could also pick other people in the account to be the account manager. So for this example, let's add my client, and my client is client G. So under client name, I'll just set this to client G, and then I'll leave the website field blank for now and leave myself as the account manager. And once I'm done adding all of my clients, I can just go ahead and press create. Okay, from the client account screen, we'll then be able to see a list of all the clients that have been added to the account. So after adding my client, we can see that it's showing up here as client G. From this screen, we can then see important information about each client account that will help us manage on our end. These include things like who the account manager is, the number of data sources connected for the client account, the number of metrics created, as well as any tags that have been created for this client. You can then also make use of the filters here at the top to filter the client accounts. You can filter client accounts by managers or by tags. For example, you can use tags to distinguish between clients who have specific services. So for clients who have only purchased your SEO service or only purchased your paid campaign services, to help make it easier for you to filter through and find those appropriate clients in your list. These client accounts in Databox actually offer a secure and scalable reporting process for your agency, while still allowing for customization based on specific client needs or preferences. So each client account is going to offer the same capabilities as your normal agency account, which means that once you've created the client account, the process of connecting data sources, building dashboards, setting goals, and more are all the same that you would do when you're creating your agency account. Okay, so let's assume that I've added a few clients and then connected all their data sources to their specific accounts. I've created goals and built all the dashboards, but now I just want a place where I can easily review the performance of their most important metrics and goals. Rather than switching between and jumping around different client accounts, I can actually use the metric performance overview screen to see everything that I need in one place. So from here, I can add all the metrics and KPIs that we are tracking for each client, and then even filter this here at the top by account manager and tag. For the purpose of this video, you can see that I've gone ahead and already added a few metrics for my clients. So for client A and client B, we're looking at sessions and total ad spend. And then I do have two ways that I can add metrics here. I can choose to set metrics for all. So for example, if all our client accounts have Google Analytics connected and we wanted to see a metric like sessions, by selecting set metrics for all, it will automatically set sessions from Google Analytics as a metric on our metric performance overview screen. So by clicking the drop-down arrow here and selecting a metric like sessions, it would basically populate with data from all of our client accounts. Another option that I have is that if I have metrics that are specific or unique to one client, I can just select an empty box and set a metric for this specific client. So this will still give me visibility into the performance of important metrics that we're tracking, but it's not necessarily the same between each client. So again, to set a metric, I would just select the drop-down menu and then use the filters here or the search function to search for the specific metric that I want to see for this client. Similarly, you can then navigate to the goals overview screen to see how every goal in your client account is performing. So if we click into goals overview, we'll be able to see all the goals that have been added to a client account displayed under this screen. So if your goals are off track, you can then quickly jump into your client account to try and investigate the reasons why that might be. Again, here at the top, you can choose to filter goals by account managers. So if for example, I wanted to look at all the goals from my client, I could just set the filter to me, or again, I could filter it by tag. And then I can also update the date range for this whole entire screen to see the goals that I have associated with the different timeframes. In this video, we're going to talk about using templates on client accounts. As an agency, you're managing multiple client accounts and services. Each client will obviously have their own set of unique needs and goals, but many of the reports and deliverables that you create usually share some common elements. For example, whether it's SEO, social media, or campaign performance, you're often presenting similar dashboards or data to each client. With Databox, you can actually save custom dashboards as templates and use them on every client account. This is great because instead of starting from scratch every time you need to create a report for a client, you can leverage the templates you already created for your services that include all the necessary KPIs, formatting, and branding elements. And then once you use the template, you can obviously continue to customize those dashboards according to your client's needs. So this could be, for example, adding or removing specific metrics and KPIs, changing the logos of your dashboards, and so much more. Okay, so let's assume that I've created a dashboard to help me track organic traffic to my client's website. So prior to this video, I actually built this dashboard, and I want to turn this dashboard into a template. So to do that, I'll just select the option under More and Save as Template. I can choose to rename my account template, but for now, I'm just going to leave the name as is, and then I can also choose who has access to this template. And again, I'm just going to leave it for everyone. So I can go and press Save. And now if we navigate under Account Templates, we can see here our new template that we saved, which is the master template, Organic Traffic. Now, to use this template on a client account, we'll first need to switch to a specific client account. So we've built this on the agency, so let's go and switch to a client. And for this example, let's use client B. And to find that template, again, we'll find it under Data Boards and Account Templates. One thing that I do want to point out is that in client accounts, account templates are divided into two sections. At the top here, you'll see all the account templates that you've saved that are unique to this client. And here at the bottom, you'll see all the templates that have been saved in the agency account. So because we created our template or saved our template in the agency account, we can find our template here. And to use that template, let's just select Use Template and pick our data source. Okay, now that we've created this dashboard in the client account, you can continue to customize this to fit your client's needs. So like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, by selecting Edit, you can choose to add or remove metrics from this dashboard, update the colors, change the logos, add it to a loop, and just so much more. Okay, now let's go back to our agency account and back to our data board. And let's just assume that we wanted to know how people are accessing our client's website. Currently, from the dashboard template that we created, we can't really see data on whether people are using their phone, computers, or tablet. So we want to include a metric like sessions by device category to help us monitor this activity. But manually updating each dashboard that we created from this template is going to be a time drain. Instead, with Databox, we can actually update the master template and have changes automatically reflect on all dashboards created from that template. So for example, if we've used this template for client A, B, and C, we can push the changes to all the client accounts. So let's actually go ahead and do that now. Let's go back to Data Boards under our agency account and select Account Templates. And under our master template, Organic Traffic, let's click Edit. To add a new visualization, I'm just going to go under the metric library and select Sessions by Device Category. And let's just drag and drop that onto our dashboard. I'm just going to make a few changes quickly. So I'll quickly just expand the data block, and let's change this to a table visualization. Okay, now with my template updated, I can push all of these changes to the dashboards that were created from this template by selecting the button at the top here, Update Data Boards. And like I said, we've used this templates on client A, B, and C. So let's just tick all of the templates and all of the client accounts that we want to push this change to. And let's just click Select and yes, Update. Okay, now all of the dashboards that have been created from this template should be updated. So let's go ahead and check back on client B. And if we go back to data boards and select view, we can see here that the new metric that we added, sessions by device category, is now available.